Hi guys.
Hi.
Welcome
Hello.
back. I love that you jumped right into
What camera am I looking at?
there's one in front of you.
That's your camera.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
but any of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's three.
Yeah, you're gonna have different angles when you watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the main one.
Okay.
But hi guys, welcome back to another episode, final episode of the season.
Yeah,
of the sitting down with the sisters.
Don't drag us, guys. Well, we're going to be on holiday, but we'll be back. No, honestly.
No, but it's been a good season.
It's been a very good season.
I think we've had a
This has been
really
our
good
best
season. We've had,
I agree.
We've had amazing
100%.
guests.
So we got to end it the right way.
Yes,
End it with a bang.
Literally,
See, you get it.
literally. That's
You
it.
get it.
And like I said, we've had. We're your host. First of all, I'm Temi.
I'm Ashley.
I'm Ayo, and we
have a special guest.
As you
with
can
us.
see, we're not alone.
We have a special guest with us today. We've got Shocka in the building. Woo! So Shocka, I've done some research, of course. So
Yes.
Shocka is a rapper.
Yep.
You're a speaker.
Yes.
You're an author.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
The whole
Yes,
Of course, and a mental health advocate.
Yep.
Yes.
And yeah, like, is there anything else that I missed?
Nah, that was it.
Wow, that's amazing. So you've had TED Talks, you've written a book,
Yes.
and you've been on podcast. You're literally just spreading awareness
Yeah,
of like
definitely.
mental health and everything else. And
Definitely.
you are from North London,
Yes.
Tottenham,
Broadwater
Broadwater
Farm,
Farm.
to be specific.
Wow.
Where is Broadwater Farm?
Broadwater Farm
I know it's
is
in Tottenham,
it's
but
in Tottenham, and it's got such a rich history.
okay.
Because there was 2 riots there. I don't know if you lot are aware.
I know about one.
Which one?
The
The one in
Mark
2012.
Duggan.
That was Mark Duggan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember that one.
What was the
police.
second one?
The first one. That was the second one.
Oh, yeah,
The
the first
first one was in 1985.
Oh,
A police
wow.
officer got killed.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
A black or just a police officer?
Just a police officer, not
Oh,
a
okay.
black police, white police officer.
Okay.
Got
Okay.
killed. So
Wow.
basically, if I know the story correctly, they raided somebody's house, and the woman that passed away was called Cynthia Jarrett.
Okay.
They raided her house and she got a heart attack.
Oh wow.
And that just sent the community into like
Into frenzy.
into a
Yeah.
frenzy, and then like, there was a big riot. Then the police officer got killed. So from then, with the community and the police officers, it's just been
There's just
hostile. I feel like there's
tension.
always been like a bad aura in the air that
man.
hasn't been cleansed.
Like
if
tense.
That makes
yeah,
sense.
if you
I
come
was
to my area,
following-
there's always police.
Really?
And
Oh,
like,
wow.
you can tell like this is not just a regular in and out that you lot are coming. This is like
doing
Yeah.
this is history.
Yeah.
Because they
You know what I
know
mean?
that at any given moment,
Yeah,
anything
exactly.
can happen.
Oh, wow.
Like
Wow.
Princess Diana came to my area.
Oh wow.
The,
Yeah.
what,
At the
the
time
real
of
queen.
just
At that
everything
time.
that was the real queen.
No, she is the real queen.
She is
That's why I
people's
always mention it.
princess.
'cause
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big
Yeah, man.
deal.
And
It's
I feel
really big
like
deal.
souls like that, wherever they travel on this planet, is extremely important.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because like, they
100%.
go to specific places.
Right.
She was
Like, she was
100%.
assigned to go to like certain places. She wasn't everywhere.
Yeah.
So for the fact that like one of the places her soul came to was Broadwater Farm,
That's significant.
that said a lot to me.
Yeah.
That, like, yo, where you come from is like
A big
where you
thing.
started.
Right.
Is iconic. So you might as well just finish it.
Wow.
You better keep mentioning that, telling people.
That's amazing.
If I'm
Brilliant, end of it.
Part of the reason I asked specifically about Broadwater Farm is because let's not go into it, but quickly, when we're from South London, and I hadn't really heard much about Tottenham, except if
London
it's
in
obviously on the
general.
news or just in general. And I feel like there's it's such a big community in London. There's lots of different things happening all over London. And the first time I ever heard of, I didn't know what Broadwater Farm was before. You know, Mike would like explain that to me. So I thought it was just nice to know that there's so much happening outside of South London, because we can be a bit naive.
We're in our own
We're in our own little bubble in
I'm not
South.
naive. I just think this, like, if you've only been around something, that's what that's your like baseline.
But do you not feel like other
For
places?
a girl, especially.
Especially,
yeah,
I
okay.
think the man them know.
Yeah,
They
okay.
know what's going on.
Okay, maybe it's a
Most of the
woman.
man them, that I mean, that
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
They'll
Yeah.
know
But I do feel like naturally, South London, we are in our own
Because
bubble
we're quite a
little bit.
big.
But everyone,
community.
I'm not gonna people from other areas in London.
know
they
other
tend
places.
to say that about South. Like,
We
it's not
think-
necessarily a bad thing, but we're just very like,
Yeah,
we're
in our
proud
own-
of South. Like,
Yeah,
I think
proud. You should be
very
proud.
rich.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Literally,
Yeah.
literally. And another thing that, based off my research, so you were part of a group.
Yes.
Starting early, that was sort of like your first sort of, would you call it mainstream or sort of your first?
That was. I was in a group before the group you're talking about. You're
What
talking
group am I
about
talking
Marvel.
about? Oh, yeah.
But I was in a, you're talking
Yeah.
about Marvel. That's where like everyone kind of got to know me, was introduced to me. But I was in a group prior to that.
Okay.
Called Chain Gang.
Chain
Which
gang,
people won't know
okay.
about unless you really know the history. But Chain Gang was do you remember when they used to have olders and youngers?
Yeah.
Remember, like,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
younger
yeah.
Cheng was the youngest to a group called Combination Camp.
Okay.
And Combination Camp had Wretch 3-2 in it.
Oh, okay.
So we were like his youngest.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I've seen Wretch's development from like
From young.
the beginning.
wow.
So like
all the
seeing
way
what
till
he's-
now.
When he went number 1, we was losing it.
Oh, is he
Because
from? Is he
all
also
of you
from?
guys.
He's
the
around the
area?
corner from me. So I'm from Broadwater
wow.
Farm. He's from like Tiverton.
Okay.
Which is like 5-10 minutes. So
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
see him. Like you just see
Yeah.
him.
That's
You
crazy.
be in the block and you see him coming past.
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So
And I
when
can-
he went number 1 in the charts, I was like, nah. Two people from North London really woke everyone up. Chip.
Yeah.
Chip
Oh,
was
for
around the
sure.
corner.
Yeah.
When Chip won that mobile award,
Can imagine.
That must have been big for all of you guys.
everyone was on the phones. I don't know if it was group chats, whatever it was.
Of course. Was it
Blackberry,
BBMs? Yeah, BBMs.
Everyone is BBM. Like, are you joking?
Oh, wow.
Because the mobiles. Not saying there's anything taken away from the mobiles now.
Yeah.
But
But
that's
back
that time.
then,
Oh, it was
yeah, it was
different.
big. Of
Mm.
course,
It was
100%.
So like when he won the mobile, that was a thing. I remember how the energy in the ends, and then when Wretch went number 1 for Don't Go, I remember I was like, yeah, this is really real. But these are people that like I know. That I mean, I've seen before, like South London. I'll just
Yeah, no.
But when So
don't rep
Solid,
it.
when
Don't
So
worry.
Solid was doing what they was doing, it was amazing. But I didn't know them.
Yeah.
Whereas like Wretch, I know you
Because he's
You're
from
real.
sort of the area.
Yeah, so like.
That's like Stormzy, I feel like, for South London.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that must be. Do you know what I mean?
And maybe Crept on Conan as well,
Yeah.
because you kind of saw
100%.
the like. Stormzy went to our
Oh, he
school,
went to our school.
so we
Exactly.
kind of saw
Yeah.
someone from the ends making it, and we thought,
Exactly.
wow,
I feel
this
like-
is possible.
So it makes sense in that sense.
Yeah.
As a creative, you always make excuses for why you can't do something.
Yeah.
So like when someone close to you,
That's something.
there's no excuses.
Yeah.
Like I
Literally.
think someone said that seeing someone that's overcome a problem that you're dealing with
Wow.
face to face
Yeah.
leaves you with 2 things. It leaves you with number 1, the possibility that you can do it, and number 2, that there's no excuses.
Wow.
Hence why I like sharing my testimony everywhere, because like for someone at home that's going through
You
something
never
that
know
I
who's
currently went
watching.
through,
Yeah.
you're seeing the live embodiment of it.
Wow.
So it's like, what's the excuse?
And
You know what I mean?
it's so funny that you say that, because there's literally a Bible verse that backs up what you're saying. It says like, we overcome by the blood of the lamb, the word of our testimony, the blood of the lamb. Like the
Yes.
more we speak, it heals other people.
Wow.
Because once
Right.
people know they're not alone, because I think the temptation is to feel like whatever we go through or whatever we're trying to achieve in life, like we're alone and we're the only one trying to do this thing.
You're
we're the only one trying to-
isolated.
But it's like when you know so many other people have tried this thing and so many people have made it, or other people have made it, it's like it gives you the hope that me too, I can make
I'll
it.
be able to do
That's
it.
why representation is so important.
Oh,
Do you know what I
100%.
mean?
Definitely.
It's
spoken
so
about
important.
that
Like
so
me
much.
having dreads, like I was just the Uber I took here. We had a long conversation, and then like halfway through it, he was like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "Nigeria." He's like,
Oh
I
no.
thought you was Caribbean."
Oh, my God.
When we found out we was both Nigerian, the conversation got sweeter. Because she's like, "Oh no, now I can really talk to you."
Oh, wow.
Do you know what I mean? So like representation
Yeah.
is so important.
Oh, definitely.
Hence why, not to get too deep already, but hence why like our history was like erased.
Yeah.
Because like if we could just see it,
Yeah.
just see a picture of not the slavery pictures,
Yeah.
but just a picture of like how our ancestors was living. Just a picture, just getting that image, it will never leave us.
Wow.
Like, we'll always try and get back there.
Thrive.
That's
You know what I mean?
so
So they can't even risk us seeing the
Seeing it,
picture.
Right.
Oh
Do you know what I mean?
wow.
Do you know why that's so powerful?
Yeah.
Because I am one of those people that has a problem with like the victim mentality amongst black people personally. This is just me. But it's
Yeah.
because I feel like we've been taught that slavery is a majority of our history, and I'm like, there was a life before slavery.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's been also been a life after
Afterwards,
slavery.
yeah.
But slavery didn't define black people as a like as a whole entity. Like we've always had richness to who we are, like so what you're saying. And the more you know where you're from, I think also being brought up to be proud of where I'm from and everything like that, just I've never stepped into a space and felt like I was lower or less than anybody
Yeah.
else. And
Undeserving.
I think the agenda of the media to continue to feed black people that you are lesser than people
It's
and you
limiting.
need to- It's limiting because if you
They know what
genuinely
they're
believe
doing by
that,
doing
you
that.
step into places and automatically feel like you're an imposter, and it's like
Definitely.
why are you're not
Exactly.
an imposter?
Wow.
You're literally just you're
deserve
an
to
individual
be
that
there.
deserves a chance at life like everybody else.
Right.
And I feel like that's how we need to speak.
I
to
see
people.
it in many instances. Like, do you remember in school where someone's big brother was like, or big sister was like the popular
The guy.
one?
Oh, yeah.
And do you know how much confidence the
Yeah.
little brother used to walk around with?
Yeah. Oh, that's
Simply
my brother.
because the
Yeah.
older brother had
Yeah.
that
Or like
status.
people even introduced them before they
Yeah.
introduced themselves, saying, "Oh, you know that's so and
Or like
so."
year 11s would be like, oh, your thingy sister, or your
Yeah.
thingy brother. And like, your
I
peers are
feel
seeing
like
that.
I feel like that's how every race should be walking around on this planet. Like black people should be saying, like, like I'm
Yeah.
Desmond Tutus. That's
Yeah.
what, you know what I mean. And then
Yep.
the Asians are saying, but we're the only ones that like.
Yep.
They've taken, everyone's referring back to.
But I think that's what they wanted.
I've got white friends that, I think I was kicking ball with one of my friends ages ago, and there was like, the person who's kicking ball with, that's Jeremy Corbyn's son.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so like, there's like a reference point.
Yeah.
And we're the only ones that like we're kind of like, which is not fair, but we're like creating our new reference point. That mean
when there already are some.
When there already are some.
And they're all
But that means how great was our reference points then?
This is what I'm trying to
So that means
say.
it must be
This is what I'm trying to say, and I feel like that's part. If you look back at the agendas on whatever the colonizers or whatever they were trying to do in that time, that's what they wanted, because we were obviously powerful in our own ways and the things that we had, and they saw that and they wanted to take that away from us. So unfortunately, we have to be the ones to rebuild that, to make sure our children don't forget that, our grandchildren don't forget that, and we just carry on the legacy. But
and the history still exists. So like it's not, even though people try to erase it, it's always out there, and there's a way to find it. And I think the more we actually invest in telling the positive stories, like, you'll be surprised at how much you can like empower a generation.
Wow.
Because I think what we have at the moment is a very disenfranchised young people, but that's because they've not been given, they have got things to aspire to, but that's not what they're shown. Do you know what I mean? They're shown only one lens of what it looks like
limited
to be black, or what it means to be a black British person, or what it means to be African, what it means to be like it's just been shown through one lens. But it's like, if you tell these people positive stories, you can empower a generation. So it's important.
Even my book, how that even came to be is I got a friend called Hussein Manuel. I don't think you'll know him, but he's a big like poet in the Asian community, and we're friends. And he invited me to his book launch.
Oh, nice.
And I saw his book, and I saw the queue of people like getting ready to get the book
that was
signed.
inspirational.
And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I can write a book. But that thought never came into my mind.
Until you saw it.
Until I saw it. I saw him sitting there and with the books on the table, and I was like, no, wait, what's going on here? What's this?
Definitely.
So like, you have to see things. And then like,
100%.
I wrote the book.
That's so true. I feel like you have to be exposed to certain things.
So
that's why when you were saying
exposure.
earlier, when you're only limited to a certain area or certain people, of course, by nature or by default, you're going to feel like, well,
that's
how can I aspire or hope to be great or to have greatness if this is all I'm seeing around me? When, like you said, you went to that book signing, you saw, oh wait, this is someone that I know. So if he can do it, why can't I?
Because there's positive exposure, there's negative exposure. We mostly get more positive exposure. I mean, negative exposure. Like, I saw someone get shot at early.
Oh wow.
Whereas like, if you can, you're supposed to go through your whole life not seeing it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let alone seeing
Stuff
it.
like it's not normal.
It's not normal, but I thought it was.
Wow.
It's only when I started getting around like my, white counterparts, and we're exchanging about our childhoods. And
like, hold on, your story's a little bit. Your story's a bit different from mine.
I see his face like raising at certain points when I'm talking, and I'm like, bro, you good?
Like, you sound like you're talking about a movie.
Yeah. And because you're kind of desensitized to it, and that's your
Right.
reality, you're just speaking so
I
fluently.
wrote about this in my book. I got shot at close range.
wow.
Close range. There's 3 of us in the car, and do you know what movie we was watching? Do you remember when the cars had the DVDs that slide out? And everyone was there.
Yeah.
He just got there, so like obviously we was packed
Oh my
up
God.
watching.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know what film we was watching? Who can have a guess? I'll give you like 3 guesses.
Wait.
Was it an American
I'll give you like
film?
1 guess each.
American film. Paid in full?
I was gonna
Close.
say that.
That's the thing I think I was going to say.
I was literally gonna say Paid in Full. Wait,
Paid in
Boys in the
Full.
Hood.
That's the one.
Of course.
We was watching Boys in the Hood. And at the time, we was watching Boys in the Hood, and at the time I had a friend called Whitney. Big up Whitney, I love her. I speak about her in my book as well. She's like the first girl that came into my life and really just, I don't know what she saw, but she saw something, because she was just like,
Oh, bless
always,
her.
do you know what I mean? Like, talking to me and giving me books. At the time, I'm from Tottenham, but she gave me one book, and it was called Frequency, and I remember I started reading it, and like, I remember in the car that day, I was like, yo, like, not to sound like I'm some scientist, but like the frequency we're on right now, watching Boys in the Hood, and there's like, Shocks, you're doing too much. Like, where are you getting all this? And then we got a call saying like, there's 2 guys on the estate with like ballies on. Be careful, because they got guns on them.
Oh my God.
Why they're telling us this? We're looking, and there's like,
You can
2
see
guys
what
in-
they're talking about
we're
right
seeing
in the
2 guys with
flesh.
ballies on. So we're like, I think we can see them, and we come off the phone. The 2 guys with badges on came, and they're peeping around the corner looking for someone, but they can't see us. I don't know what got into my friend's head, but he was like, let me try and reverse out.
So the attention came instantly.
So they
So
heard
when
the
he turned
engine.
And then because he's kind of scared, he stalled.
Bless him.
So like they've come to the window. The window's car was tinted though. Thank God, car was tinted. So they're trying to peek. They can't see, and they shot through. It shot through the side door.
No way.
And then my friend like kind of drove off, and he's shouting, "I'm hit." But I'm waiting to see blood before I really panic.
Yeah.
But I can't see any blood, so I'm like, I heard the gunshots. I know something happened.
Yeah.
So he drove all the way to his girlfriend's house, parked the car, jumped out, and the bullet was on the seat. But what happened was the car door was so thick that it slowed down the speed of the bullet. So it didn't hit him.
God is good.
Do you know what I mean?
Imagine how
we got a group
close
chat, we
that
talk
would
about this all the time. He's got kids now.
Wow.
That's something you'll never forget.
Because I'm looking at the life he's got now, and I'm like, that could have.
Everything could have changed.
The trajectory
in the blink of an eye.
I have a
as well.
question actually, because it's kind of linked on from what we've been talking about. Because obviously, like you talk about the childhood you had and like being around other people, and it probably shocked them a lot. And your name is Shocka.
Yeah.
So my question was going to be like, how did you come up with the name Shocka? Why Shocka?
Do you know what? Shocka. Someone gave me that name, and I don't know where that person is on the planet.
Oh wow!
No way.
Yeah, seriously.
So what? Do you just you remember what they said, but you just don't know?
No, because I've had that name since. I remember how long I've had the name for.
Okay.
I've had the name since I was in primary school.
Wow.
I remember in year 5, year 6, people calling me Shocka. So I'm like,
my gosh.
because I've been doing music for so long as well, since I was in year 5, year 6. So
Do you know the reasoning why they gave it to you?
I don't know where the name. I don't know how it got bestowed upon me. All I know is that like I had a harsh tongue at that time as well. Like, I used to get in cussing matches and like.
Right.
So I
You
used
just
to
say some
Shocka.
outlandish things. What Shocka?
Yeah. So like, I got to like a certain age and I was like, I need to reclaim that name and like make it mean what I want it to mean. Because like I feel like I did a freestyle about 2 weeks ago, and I said something about your name is a spiritual remote. Be careful what you call yourself. He called himself Killer. Now he's a killer. He's in jail for deadly assault. Wow. And I believe like the names that you call yourself.
Oh,
do you know what I mean? Like
We've
the guy
said
that called
this
himself Killer.
We've spoken about this. Is why,
before.
obviously, not to go too deeply into it. This is why I can't speak for any other cultures, but Nigerians,
Yoruba specifically.
Yoruba
Big on
specifically,
names.
we are so big on names. Even though it might sound so complicated, but when you know the meaning behind what you call your children and just people, it's so important. A lot of it manifests.
It's prophecy. It is
Yeah.
prophecy.
Yeah,
It's
it's
prophecy.
self-fulfilling.
You know that whole thing of life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Yeah.
You'll say
Yes.
this over your child for the rest of their life.
That's it.
So you'll notice that someone whose name is Ayo, for instance, they tend to be a joyful person.
Yeah.
Ayo means joy. Or any, like when you just think of
It's
any
important.
name.
But this is where it gets tricky. This is where it gets tricky. I feel like your name can serve double duties. Your name, if your name is called Powerful, if you consciously, take control of that name, you can make it be powerful in a positive light.
or in a
But if you're not aware and you're just living your life, that's why if you go to prison, you'll see Joseph and Abraham in prison.
Oh my
It's true. No,
It's true.
Facts.
And you see Moses is in prison.
So
But the
true.
reason why is because they wasn't conscious. That's why you have to sit your child down at a certain age
And explain
and say,
what their
this is what
names
your name
mean to
is,
them,
and this is what I want you to do.
Because there's no
If
point
not,
naming giving a child a
they won't be
name
able
and
to
then they
act-
don't actually
they
know
won't be
what
able
it
to act-
holds.
They won't be able to activate
Can you
it.
imagine
At
that?
all.
So like
Powerful.
you'll see a Joseph in prison.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Because they didn't know and a Jesus. Yeah, no, seriously.
Still speaking about
So
the name.
with Shocka, I got to a point where obviously after I started getting aware of this, I was like, okay, cool, I need to reclaim it. And like as soon as I said that, an acronym for my name came to my head.
Yeah.
So I wrote about it in my book. It's got two meanings. First meaning is the acronym, which is spiritual healer others can know is around them.
Period.
And what does
Oh,
that
I
mean?
love that.
That means the more I'm open, the more I'm vulnerable, other people around me can see that and decide if they want to emulate it.
Right.
And I literally grew into that. That's what I do now with my life. And then the second meaning is that I wanted to shock my friends, my family, and the world in a positive way. I wanted them to look at my journey at the end of my life and be like, he really did something.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I claimed that and now I'm walking in it. But that's because I became aware at a certain point, which is important.
Yes.
Because like most people always like, I see all these videos on TikTok saying like, yo, what is the point of being conscious? And I wake, it's like I'm waking up in a nightmare. Like, why did I even wake up out the Matrix? But then the reason why, the reason for being conscious is to take back control over your life.
Wow.
100%.
So you can walk and know what you're doing. You know what I mean?
That's so good.
Because I think about my life prior to waking up, and I think God was really guiding me. Because I didn't know, like, my friends would call me, we'll chill on the block. To get me at my house now, it's a movie. It is a movie. movie.
What? Not for us.
Yeah, like it's a
No, for real.
No, I only go to places that's purposeful. You know what I mean? So I think about them
love that.
times
When
Well,
you
it
just
makes
would
sense.
just
and
go
I'll just
around.
be out.
Yeah.
I'm
makes
sorry, I
sense.
love that because in this day and age, it's like, oh, if you're not outside, what you're doing is summer. Like, come outside.
To do what?
No,
Heavy
no,
on
no,
that
no,
question.
no, no,
What
no.
are we actually doing?
Meaning. Life
You're
is
going
about
to these
meaning.
places, listen to the same music, same people, same alcohol, same things. Your life isn't changing, and then you're like,
What
it
happens
just doesn't.
is when you start realizing what kind of calling you carry, you start realizing
You said
that
it.
it's
costly to be at the wrong place.
costly. Because
It's like an exposure.
If you get me, you abort the whole mission.
Yeah.
And that mission that you're aborting affects millions
Many
of people.
other-
Yeah,
That's
that
when
are
you start
tied to
taking
you,
others
yeah.
that are tied into consideration. When you don't look at yourself, like I think someone was explaining what you know the Bible verse that says my people perish
For lack
For
of
lack of
knowledge.
knowledge,
yeah.
Yeah.
There was a word that was explaining, but they was basically saying that it means just to live your life
Aimlessly.
aimlessly.
Without purpose,
Without
without
purpose.
intention.
And like purpose gives you that constraints.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like a woman that's pregnant. You're not gonna, as much as she loved drinking before she was pregnant,
9 months.
Someone that's sensible, they wouldn't.
she'll tame herself. She'll
Right.
have to tame herself.
Yeah.
She's thinking about something
Yeah.
else.
The purpose.
And that's how I got to. I went from like, and it just happened.
Yeah.
I went from like being on the block, you know, every day and yo, what's you coming out today and what we doing raving, and then like as soon as your purpose starts, you know, the stronger and stronger it starts getting, you start taming yourself.
Right.
Your friend will call you and be like, can you follow me here? You start asking questions like,
Right,
who's gonna be
right,
there? How long
right.
am I
Where
gonna
we
be there
going?
for? Especially someone like me that's not driving. Now I'm thinking like, if you take me there,
How am I gonna
and
get
don't like
home?
where I'm at,
How am I gonna get home?
and I don't
That's
like
a real thing.
and I
How's the
don't like
quickest way
where
to
I'm
leave?
at. How long am I there for? And can I escape?
Of
Because I'm known,
course.
like ask all my friends, I'm known as the person that escapes.
Yeah, why not?
Like they'll be like,
Fair
we're
enough.
shocking. They'll be like,
he's
said
gone,
he's
he's
going to the
gone.
toilet.
Yeah.
He's
And
gone.
he's not here no more.
He's
That
gone,
means
like-
you're in touch with yourself, though.
I
You
had
know how you're
such a beautiful
feeling.
encounter. I wrote about it in my book. It's all in my book. I was talking to someone on Facebook. We was just talking. He was like, I love your fire in the booth. The lyrics were deep, whatever. We're having a nice conversation. For like a month, I'm talking to this person on Facebook. I go to this party in Shoreditch. I'm drunk. And I'm a kind of person, I know when I'm like,
At your...
I
yeah.
know when it's time.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I'm just going to the toilet. I went to the toilet, washed my face, whatever, and I was like, yeah, I'm out. Because like, I'm still not, yeah, I'm out. I'm out. Because
Yeah.
anymore, and the person that I went
Yeah.
raving with is a rock star.
Right.
Like, they're the person that keeps coming over with. They don't know when to stop.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'm out. So anyway, I slipped out, went out. I'm walking past this homeless person. He's at Shocka. I'm like, and obviously, I got a mental health history, don't forget. So I'm like, am I bugging again?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
what is going on?
Yeah,
Shocka.
yeah.
And then he said it again. He was like shocked, and I looked at him. He was like, "It's me, Ocean, that you're talking to. That you're talking to on Facebook."
Oh, wow.
I was like, "What? You're homeless talking
Purpose.
grown man as well." I was like, "You're homeless talking to me." So anyway,
Oh, wow.
I think I reached in my pocket. See how much money I got. I gave him like £10. I had like £10 on me. Gave him like £10, and then I went really with it. And then I took an Uber. I went home. And I told my mum. Obviously, you know Nigerian parents. She's like, don't talk to him again.
I'm so done. She said unfriend him on
That
Facebook.
Ocean, don't talk to him
everything.
again.
That's the
I
first
was
thing,
like-
because
I was like
they're
to my
hearing what
mum,
they want to hear.
Because I went on my story, yeah, and I told them, I'm saying it on my story what just happened, and they was like, nah, you need to go back
Right.
and like talk to him.
Nah.
And I was like, let me tell my mum. And my mum was like, no.
Oh, you shouldn't have even, because you already
you
know
shouldn't
the
have
I was
reaction you're
like-
going to
I
get
was
from
like-
her.
She's like, no,
There's
no,
no
you
way
just
trying to see it
You
in
have
a
to
way
tell her
of
after
like-
it's done.
Yeah, and then I called my brethren that lives in that area, and I was like, would you come with me, like, to see this guy or whatever? And he was like, yeah. And then we I told him, I messaged him on that same number. So imagine I've looked on Facebook, he's got the same phone with him.
Right.
I went to see him, gave him something to eat. He bought me 3 books.
Oh, wow.
He bought me like 3 books, and like he was just talking to me, and he was just telling me like, yo, you got a light that you need to share with the world, and like,
Wow.
this is to someone that.
Can I just say something? That story is so interesting, because imagine you hadn't gone out in that at that time.
That's
that
what
you
I'm
literally had
saying.
gone out, and
That's
that
what I'm
hadn't
saying.
happened. That
And left
interaction
at
would
the
not
right
be.
time.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
I would have never known that.
That's the thing. And
Wow.
consciousness is also important, because you then went back. Because I feel like people always like make fun of people that are a bit like conscious, but I'm like, there's a fake type of conscious, which is like the wokey people. But then there's the people that genuinely understand that there's more to this life than meets your eye.
Yeah.
Like there's just more to this life.
Absolutely.
So as much as you want to be playing around, I ain't got time for that, because there's meaning happening. Like there's people that need to be impacted, there's lives that need to be changed, and there's healing that needs to take place. And so there's so much that we're all walking towards that. That's what our lives are as Christians anyway. You come into this world not for yourself. You come here to impact those around you. And so having that consciousness from a younger age will actually make your life a lot better.
100%.
You know what I mean? Than just aimlessly roaming the world and then
anyhow.
you know.
100%.
So.
And I saw something that kind of not scared me, but it scared me in a good way. It was talking about, the preacher was talking about how Moses' story in the heavens didn't start getting recorded till he was 40.
Wow.
Till he decided to say, oh, I'm leaving, and like
leaving Egypt.
So that means everything before that he thought he might have been doing, he wasn't on the heavenly schedule.
Oh wow.
And they barely talk about that part in the Bible.
Yeah.
We just hear about him arriving to the house of the Pharaoh's daughter, and then we hear that he grows up in Pharaoh's house.
Coming to
but they don't really
age,
tell you.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Even Jesus, it doesn't start until he showed. So that means like,
wow,
you could be living your life thinking you're doing something,
right?
and
You're
in
making
God's
moves,
agenda.
There's other plans.
You're not even started. Like, I feel like no discredit to my Marvel history. Like I love that. That was we met Drake, we met Amber Rose. We toured with Chipmunk, we toured with Skepta, we toured with Diversity, the group that won Britain's Got Talent. I got a video on my phone now of me with Rihanna. Like we made, you know what I mean? You know the history. We made Marvel FMs, which was our mixtape. Because we couldn't get on radio, so we called it Marvel FM, our own radio station. And people loved it, and we touched like a whole generation. People stopped me till today. But I feel like my real journey started afterwards.
That's a reminder that what we count as success, it doesn't automatically equate to success in God's eyes. It doesn't, because like you said, you've done all of that, and not to discredit or discount it, because it was purposeful. Like you did what you needed to do at that time, but in the eyes of God,
you know,
and there's a season for everything.
The pen hasn't started writing.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right. And
oh my gosh.
There's a season for everything. Literally, there's timings for everything. When you look back on your journey, you look at some of the things that you were doing, it's brought you to where you are today. You know, it can't be someone else's journey but yours.
That journey was so important because I always get people that's been sectioned as well that DM me and say, I would love to talk about how you're talking about it, but people won't take me serious or give me the opportunity.
And I was gonna
because I've just got the section label. He said, with you've got both. You might have that hanging over you, but you still got a rich history of what you've done. So people don't mind sitting down with you because you still look credible.
But when that's all they've been through,
so he was basically saying like, do it for us, because they've given you the opportunity to go up there and speak. We can't, and it's true. If a guy just off the street wanted to come and say this story, do you know what I mean? People are not gonna. And
that's
I know
so
that.
sad.
Yeah, so that kind of that part of my journey was so important.
Right.
Does it ever feel heavy?
100%. 100,000,000%. It's heavy, it's scary, there's sleepless nights. There's sleepless nights. Once you've started, you can't stop.
Right.
Because like you started walking apart.
You can't go backwards.
You can't go backwards. So it's like whatever's ahead, I just have to face it now. And you don't know what's ahead. You know this is life with him.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So it's heavy, and it makes you like relate to people's journees that's been on the same path as you even more. It's like I find myself going through history now, like because I like studying pioneers, people that was like the first to do what they're doing. I want to know like what possessed you, what kept you going, and do you know what I mean? How did you find your map? Because like what I'm doing now, no one showed me this. I come from a music world.
There's no blueprint.
There's no blueprint. I never ever heard no one as a black male, especially from Tottenham, young, African, Nigerian, speaking about mental health or like
to the degree that you're
being in a mental health hospital. Like how did the Nigerian parents take it?
And that's what I wanted to ask you about, because I feel like you said that the bit that God started writing kind of started after the Marvel period, and it took almost like a very devastating thing to happen for this to be born, you know, out of you. So I just wanted, like, if you could shed some light to the people listening on what that was like for you, like what exactly happened and how God has used that, like how God has redeemed that to, you know, put you where you
so
are
what
now.
happened was, as I mentioned, that whole Marvel history, we got signed, just to condense the story, because it'll be another TED Talk. And the TED Talk's on YouTube.
And we'll link it down below.
But just to condense the story, we got signed, everything was going well. We got together in 2008. Then by 2010, we was like all over the country. Our names was everywhere in that short period of time. So in 2010, we brought out a single called We Know. I don't know what we thought we knew.
Okay.
But
Fair enough.
But we was confident and we called it We Know. And we picked a special date, which was 10th of the 10th, 2010. And
Oh wow.
yeah, because we just thought, let's pick a special day. So like in 10 years later, we're going to look back and be like, oh,
This
on the 10th
special
of
day,
October is when we went number one and we became millionaires and we
Okay.
bought our penthouse and you know what I'm
So
saying?
you thought it all
You
out.
had a plan.
Like, that was
We
the
had
plan.
a plan,
Yeah.
and like we all know the saying: when you make a plan,
Wow.
God was like, nah, that's not what's gonna
He
happen.
was laughing.
Keep
He
doing
was
your
like,
thing.
keep kidding.
Yeah, keep doing your thing. Anyway, 10 comes, single comes out, nowhere to be seen in the charts.
Oh.
And we spent like £50,000 in a video.
Oh,
Remember I told you all
wow.
the tours we went on, nowhere to be seen in the charts. And then obviously I'm new to the record business, so I didn't this is another reason why I keep my energy to myself, because like I can't control it. When I get around people, I'm just like, you know, smiling, friendly, taking everyone. The world is not like that. The world is harsh. People with this kind of, you know, you
They'll
get
dry you, bleed.
you get
They'll bleed you
swallowed.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
honestly, that's another thing that I don't mention. The amount of people that call me for stuff and like, do you know what I mean? Like obviously some with good intentions, some might be
not with
just
good
taking
intentions.
advantage of like how I'm like. So we're laughing with the record label in their house in December, playing football in the house, eating food, laughing with them, not knowing that like a couple months later we're gonna get a call saying they're gonna drop us from the record, from the record label. And like when we got dropped from the record label, I took it the harshest out of everyone in the group because I was the only one that was like solely reliant on music. Like Double S is one of the group members. He was solely reliant on music as well, but he had a name prior. Him and Chipmunk came up together. So Double S is the star of the group. And then you got Vertex, who was the cameraman. He's the group member, but he used to do videos as well. And like he was shooting Tinty Strider's videos and N-Dubs' videos, and like so he already kind of had a lane if anything was to go wrong. I was the only one that was like banking on music.
You didn't have a
I didn't
backup
go to
plan.
university. I didn't have a backup plan. So I'm panicking. Now when I look back, I kind of put too much pressure when I think about it.
I was
But when
going to
you're
ask
young,
that,
you're not looking, you're not.
Especially
In the
because you're
moment,
so
you
exposed
don't
to
see
everything
that,
and
yeah.
you're
And
new
like-
to all of this.
And everyone around you, you know, when you're young, you're really conscious of like what
Yeah.
everyone's doing. This
Yeah.
one's going to university.
Yeah.
This one, and then you got, that's where the Nigerian parents come in. Then you got your mum like
pressure.
asking you, because my mum used to go to work and I'll be in the house in my boxers and she'll come back and
you're
I'm still
still
walking
in
around the
your
kitchen in my boxers. And like, they're not going to let that slide.
African
You're gonna get the
parents.
day,
After a couple of days,
It's like, what's happening? What's
going
next?
on?
after a couple of days, you start getting the dirty looks because, like,
Right.
I've
Not
said
the
what I
dirty
wanted
looks.
to say to you.
Yeah.
And you're still...
So you start getting
What's
the
going on?
The noise hard of hearing.
yeah, you start getting the like,
No.
God intervene. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Wow.
so you're dealing with all of that pressure and like, also this is a major part I need to include. I'm an only child, so I've got no brothers, no sisters.
Yeah.
So I had a
So the
really,
spotlight is on you.
but I had a really sheltered upbringing.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my mum really like
She put everything into you
pampered
and
me.
pampered you. Yeah.
And can I say something so quickly? You mentioned earlier about just, you know, being just who you are in front of people and just, you know, when you speak to people, you're just yourself. And I think it relates back to what you were saying about just being sheltered, because the real world is a cold world.
Yes.
And you were so sheltered from that, you didn't realise.
Yes.
So then
So
when
it
you
was
got
like a
to that
shock,
stage,
no pun intended.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I
Yeah.
needed to wake me up. But like,
Wow.
that God was basically saying to me, like, you are too innocent to go on the path that I've got prepared for you.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, the path I got prepared for you, you like, trust
need
me,
to
you're
see something.
far from ready.
You need
Right.
to
You
see
need to
something
really
first.
see. And like, I'm happy because I'm at the point now that like, I think I've seen more than enough.
Wow.
I've seen enough to the point where like, I'm scared to say what I wanted to say because I was gonna be like, what else can you show me? But I know there's more you can show me. That's a dangerous one. Did you see the way I was like?
Yeah.
But what I was trying to say is that like I've seen what I needed to see. You know what I mean? To like get me right.
Right.
But at that time I was not ready, and like I think God was probably saying to me at the same time, like if you're, because let me go into the story. So basically, after that I had a breakdown, and that's how I got sectioned for the first time.
Right.
How old were you at the time?
I was 24, I think. Was that
2011? Was it?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
And then I got sectioned for the first time. I got put in St Anne's Hospital. It's a hospital in Tottenham. Everyone, again, this is another thing that I had to deal with. Everyone knows about St Anne's.
Right.
Like I got a song called 12 a.m. in
St Anne's.
St Anne's. Because I've embraced it now and I can turn that around.
But at the time it wasn't that.
Imagine doing it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or putting your name and St Anne's in the same
especially
sentence.
with the status that you had as well. That's where you were coming
South
from.
London.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like everyone knows about St Anne's, and even how I even made that song, I got it from a Skepta lyric. That's why I said to Skepta, who remembers when Skepta said real madman, because Skepta's got a bar where he says you and I got different plans. Real madman, I might go St. Anne's.
Wow.
But in my head I was thinking, when I heard it I was like, he's joking with it. Not disrespect, but like it's my life.
Right.
And then like something was like, no, take that.
Yeah.
And
turn it into what it's intended.
Yes, take that and grab their attention of it and then say so much more.
Wow.
And that's what I did.
Yeah.
So
So
I got sectioned that first time in St Anne's. Then when I came out, it's not, I want to say it's the mistake I made, but it's not the mistake I made because it's just the timing was in just didn't allow me to.
Right.
But I wish there was podcasts like this or like that's why I keep saying that I had to be the blueprint because there was no one that could have DM'd me at that time and said, when I got sectioned the first time, these are the don'ts that I did, and these are the stuff that I didn't do.
So you didn't have the material.
I didn't have. There was no one.
Yeah.
There was no one.
Yeah.
And now it's funny because like all the people that had been sectioned in Tottenham, or they're now reaching out to me.
And this is why you do what you do.
They didn't speak because they said the shame was so heavy.
Wow. It's hard.
That if I had told you at the time,
speak about that,
I didn't want you to look at me like, oh, you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because there's so much people that's been saying now like, oh, do you know why you've never met my mum?
Right.
Because she's got bipolar.
Wow.
So we've always been like hiding her from the community. Do you know what I mean?
And in our culture, from being Nigerian as well, like there's just
you don't want to know what
There's-
fight
It's
I went.
like a taboo.
Why
is it
stigma around it?
Why is that
insane?
so?
Like
Yeah.
there's just a lot because you know there's the culture of making sure it looks like you're all good from outside, like that whole shame culture.
Right.
But then on top of that, when people don't understand something, the shame behind being confused about something. When you don't understand something, you just push it out.
Right.
And so even with your own family member, you'll probably try and shield them, but you also push everybody away.
Yeah.
Because you don't want anybody to get a clue
Of what's happening.
actually
Just
happening.
conceal it.
But
Yeah.
when somebody struggles with their mental health to that degree that they can get sectioned and stuff, it impacts your family in a way that like it's
like never before.
It's just it's different.
Right.
Yeah, because my auntie was telling me, she told me this recently actually. My auntie told me that when her and my mum came to see me in hospital,
Oh my god.
they knew somebody that was working, like another auntie, you know, those aunties
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
And the auntie said to my mum, what are you doing at this part?
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we don't, like this part,
We're not here.
we're not here.
Yeah, she was
And then-
surprised to see your mum.
Yeah, and then like my auntie was like, my mum had to say like, I'm coming to see my son. And what my auntie was trying to say is that like in our culture, to get that sentence out
in the first,
that
it's
I'm
a
coming
lot.
to see my son is huge. Do you know what I mean? And like it made me think as well, because I never thought about like the sleepless nights my mum must have been having. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
Or while I was sectioned, you know, you get calls from Nigeria back home just asking how's everything.
Yeah.
Did my mum lie?
And what she
When
said.
they-
What was
yeah,
she
do you know what I
saying?
mean? Did she say like he's in hospital, or was she saying he's just out with his friends?
Yeah.
So it's
She
like,
was definitely trying to protect you.
yeah. So
And do you know, sorry, I was gonna say, you said something on a podcast just about when your mom passed. Your auntie must have asked you a question or said like, is this what your mum would want? You know, speaking out about, you know, all these things, and it just reminds me again back to the conversation about that shame and just not wanting
That
to speak
stigma.
about it.
Yeah.
And you said something that was so profound. You said, because she knows that this is what I want to do, she will be happy that this is what I am doing.
Yeah.
And again, it just goes back to show like how Africans and how just it's such a taboo and we just can't speak about these things, and regardless of even if it's your desire or something you want to do, it's like, oh, don't do it because you don't want the family knowing your business. And I was gonna ask, do you feel like when you started to speak out a lot more, did that influence, or did you think about it basically that, oh, I'm not sure if, you know, or was it something that you were set on a path that this is what you were going to do regardless?
I was set on a path, because there's a missing piece that we're forgetting, which is in my book. So I went to boarding school in Nigeria.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
I went boarding school for 2 years. I went boarding school in Nigeria. So when I got to Nigeria, my mum said to me, analyze all your aunties that's here and pick which one you want to stay with while you're here.
Okay.
So they didn't know this. I was just watching them. Then I had one auntie, she was like proper prayerful and like I was like, I want to stay with that auntie. Her name's Mama Day. I was like, I want to stay with that auntie. And then I stayed with that auntie, and that decision changed the whole course of my life.
Oh wow.
Because when I stayed with that auntie, she's one of them people that goes church twice in the week.
Right.
You know, there's like just Sunday.
Yeah.
Then you have prayer warrior
Of
meeting on
course,
Wednesday.
Bible study, everything.
That's how I grew up.
Twice in the week.
Yeah.
So anyway, she took me to one church service, and the pastor was talking about covenants.
Wow.
A covenant that's like said God used to make covenants with man throughout history. And like, I was so you know, there's some pastors that when they preach, you get fired up. Oh my God, I'm young and I've never been in this environment, because when I was in London, we don't go to church. But people do that now, and this whole generation, everyone's like some sort. But when I was younger, none of my friends, none of them weren't really going to church like that. No, it really wasn't. Or if they wasn't taking it serious.
Okay,
You know what I mean? Because the preaching, like, no disrespect, but the preaching in Nigeria and the preaching here,
different.
You think it's different?
The Nigerian one's heavy.
Yeah, it's different, man.
I'm so done.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie
You know
to
what?
you.
Fair enough.
The Nigerian, and because of the environment you're in as well.
Yeah, I think it's more
when you're in
radical as
Nigeria,
well.
you know,
Like they're very,
Okay.
where we are, this preaching is necessary.
And they mean it.
Yeah,
It's deeper.
Yeah,
because they've seen stuff.
So
it's not
that caught your
ignorant.
attention.
Yeah,
like
the
this
preaching
man's
over here is a
talking.
bit mainstream.
On that, a lot of people, when they moved from Africa, like back in the day, when they would get here, their faith became less of a
Yes.
Of course.
That's so
Africa,
true.
what's crazy is that, like, obviously there's a level of dependence you have on God because of the circumstance. That
Yes.
And if outside of that dependence you don't have a relationship with God, when you come to a different environment, you're not going to carry it with you.
Yes,
Of course.
exactly.
Of course,
Exactly.
100%. Because
so
like you
true.
said, the people around you, like the people you grew up with, like your friends, maybe they didn't go to church, or like you said, if they did go, it wasn't sort of
It was more
serious
rooted.
Yeah,
that way. So
exactly.
that's what you need. So when you went to Nigeria, you got a different
I
experience.
was like, yo, what's this?
Eyes.
No, this is way before. Way before.
Yeah,
I was like
yeah.
14,
Oh,
15.
so you said school,
Yeah, I
yeah.
went boarding school, way
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
So I got fired up, and I was like, the pastor was talking about make a covenant with God, a personal covenant. So I remember I was doing music, as I told you, I've always been doing music. So I was like, I got my knees and I wrote in a book, and I was like, oh God, please, like, if you can help with my music. I was just talking. But then this is the key sentence that came out of my heart. I don't know what possessed me to say it, but I'm so glad I did. I was like, if you help me, I just want to. In return, I would love to do your work.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? But I said it innocently, but I hang on to that.
Yeah.
You know when someone
He
tells
hung on to it too, because look at you.
I hung on to that promise. You know, like when your auntie
Wow.
tells you, I'm going to give you, and you keep reminding
Wow.
her. I hung on to it. So the reason why that promise was so important is because it got me through everything. So when I got section and things was going and all this stuff is happening, in the back of my mind,
You knew.
I kept thinking like,
You're thinking back to that
I'm
covenant.
thinking like, how does this play into it? Do you know what I mean? That's why I said after Marvel, I knew that's when the handwriting started writing, because like I was like, oh, this is the work, and I knew it was the work because it was something that I didn't pick.
Right.
The music, I picked it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's why I wanted it to be that, because I knew like I'll enjoy it more because you know I do music. So like, whereas this one,
It required dependence on God.
obedience, straight obedience.
Wow.
This one,
Discipline.
like, I didn't know where to start. I've never done it before. Obviously, I make jokes around my friends, but that doesn't mean I'm an actual speaker.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? One of my first talks was the TED Talk. That was in
Oh,
front
wow.
of three.
That was your.
That was
that your-
one of my first
wow.
talks. That was in front of 3,000 people. So it's like,
You got the people standing up and doing that. That
what the
was
Bible says about that. It's like, a man that is like humble before God, he will stand before kings and stuff.
Wow.
Like it's not because you were qualified. A lot of stuff that God wants us to do, the purpose that he places in us, is not because we're qualified, but it's because we're chosen.
Right.
He was chosen from before we were born. When we were being knitted in our, he knew what would happen to us and how he would then use
wasn't
that
a surprise to
achieve his
him.
purposes.
Or like obedient, because the new book, my second book that I'm writing is called Obedient to the Call.
Nice.
And like it's a beautiful
I like that
Christian
title.
book. Yeah, so I'm looking for. I would like it to be published by a Christian.
That's
I would like
cool.
it to be. If not, then it's not. But I would like it to be because it is that kind of book. Because I wanted it to be published by the people that published my last book, but they only publish mental health books.
Okay.
So when I
right,
sent her
okay.
what I've been writing, she was like,
It's not really.
it's like, it's good, but you know.
I have a question, sorry, because it wasn't mentioned. I don't know if you want to like say just so
Yeah,
people
go on.
know. What were you sectioned for? Like, what was
I
your
got
diagnosis?
so the first time I got section, I got diagnosed with manic depression.
Okay.
The second and third time I got diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, which is like even scary because it's like, can you imagine having that title hanging over your head? So now think about it. The first I had to deal with having mental health issues hanged over you, which is already
Yeah.
crazy in society. Then out of all the mental health diagnoses, schizophrenia is the highest one.
Right.
So then you got to have that hanged over your head.
Yeah.
It's just a lot to deal with. It's just a lot to deal with in terms of like your perception of like, do you know what I mean? It's a lot to deal with. But then it works in my favor at the same time because like I came through my situation so smooth that like it makes the Shocka name make sense.
Yeah.
Because like when people meet me, we just have normal conversations and we're just
Right.
laughing, joking.
Like
Yeah.
you don't look like what you
It's
And
not
then
written
by
on
the
your
time I start
forehead,
going
yeah.
into it, they're like,
They're like,
wow,
oh,
we've been through-
yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
But
like,
sometimes, like, thank God we don't look like what we've been
yes,
through.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
I have a question about just we're speaking about obviously you being sectioned and stuff. You said something. You said not only have my thoughts brought me here, you've left me my thoughts.
Yes,
You said that once, and I just wanted to find out a little bit more about just your opinion on just the whole method of sectioning.
Yeah.
Do you agree with it? Do you think it works? Is it?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
And until it does, I'm not gonna encourage
Yeah,
people to get
I
sectioned.
agree with
you.
Because
Yeah.
people message me all the time saying, "Shocks, I am on the brink of losing it.
So you
Should
would
I
not
section
advise
myself
it,
or not?"
Right.
And I don't advise it because
Okay.
the success rate is not working. It's not working
Why do you
until
keep-
it gets
why is
changed.
this still a thing?
The
do you
it's
think?
because a lot of this is just
Because they
from
don't
my
care. There's no love.
This is
Wow.
from my
Yeah,
experience.
there's no
with it.
love
It's,
there.
it's what happens when people don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So obviously, when a person's going through something like schizophrenia, which is actually really scary to go through and to watch someone go through, it becomes such a burden a lot of the time on the people that are looking after them.
Right.
So it's not even like a thing where it's because they care that they're sectioning you, but it's because obviously you seem like a harm to people.
Yeah.
Right.
So, it's
So they're
like
just trying to get you
they're trying to
away
take
from
you away from
society.
that,
Yeah.
and
Basically,
hold
and
you
just saying,
somewhere.
do you know what?
Yeah.
Hold
Yeah.
yourself here.
I'm pumping
And
you
like,
with drugs.
yes.
I'm pumping you with drugs.
Yeah, when that's
Wow.
actually more
Because
harmful.
the
And the drugs thing is scary because, like, if I didn't have my auntie, the last time I got sectioned, like, I was just taking the drugs they was giving me because you don't really have much of an option when you're in there.
Yeah, exactly.
You just have to take it. And, like, they wasn't giving me my normal medication that I normally take.
Yeah.
And when my auntie saw me, she was like, I was, like, really, like, drugged out.
You're
And
out
like,
of
I had
it.
my auntie to fight for me. And it made me think that how much people don't have someone to
Oh
fight for
my
them. Like, they,
God.
you know what I mean? So, like, they're gone now.
Wow.
And that can easily happen.
Wow.
I think it's
So-
the way they approach it. It's like they see it's like a one size fits all.
Yeah.
When it's like, rather than catering to the person,
Specific needs
Yeah.
and what
being-
they
they don't. So that's why I understand why the success rate is probably
It's
Yeah,
really
the success
low.
rate is terrible.
But on that, actually, I wanted to ask your opinion as well on medication, because a lot of people, especially when it comes to mental health issues, have different opinions on whether medication is the right route.
especially as a Christian.
I think just as just in the medical field, like because people that have gone through mental health issues, specifically schizophrenia, the drugs that they tend to put you on initially, unless they proper like tailor it to you,
Yeah.
can be very numbing.
100%.
They keep you on like a monotone.
Yeah.
That you don't have highs and you don't have lows.
Yeah.
And that is very disastrous for a person because they remember being like,
It's true.
you know, they
Yeah.
remember their feelings, they remember everything like that, and so to be in that state is really hard. So what would you say? Because obviously there's some mental health issues that require medication at the beginning, at least just to help
Balance
out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then as time
With
goes
time.
on, you know, you can rehabilitate them. But like, yeah, what would you?
With the medication, you've got to get it right. Because I went through that stage in the beginning too.
Yeah.
I remember I used to cry because I felt like I used to be zombied.
Yeah.
You know, like when you're such a high milligram,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I felt like, how am I going to live life again? Do you know what I mean? But like that was only for the beginning part. Like they put you in a high milligram, then you can work your way down. Like right now, I'm on, I think 3 milligrams. That's coming from like 6, 7. So like I'm plus, but I'm at such a space that I'm comfortable with myself now that like I'm not even rushing it.
Yeah.
You know, before that's why I was having the breakdowns. And I kept coming off
off it
medication.
and on,
You know what I mean?
like, your
Because
body's
of that
trying to
fear of
adjust
like,
as well. Yeah.
I don't want to be on it forever, or I don't want to. Do you know what I mean? But like,
so relatable.
yeah. So once you get through that phase, you can just, and all my friends know as well now. So like, if I'm on holiday, they'll be asking me,
How you doing?
have you taken your medication review? That's like beautiful.
Yeah.
You don't have to hide and
Exactly.
like. Do you know what I mean? Most people are like hiding around.
Yeah,
it's
and I think
a
that's what you
journey.
were. Sorry, I think that that's what you were trying to create, right? When you
Yes.
started speaking openly about it, because like you said, you're from Tottenham, you're a black
Yeah.
man. People, when you started this, people didn't really have someone to represent
Yeah.
them in that. So I guess I hope you're seeing the fruit of your labor in
Yeah,
terms of what you're
exactly.
doing, and people just being open to speak about it.
And most people, sorry to cut you. Most people, I feel like medication is only a problem when it comes to mental health. When it's antibiotics and stuff for cold and like hay fever tablets, it's all good. Do you know what I mean? But when it's mental health, and that's not, let me tell you what the problem is. The issue is nobody wants to be seen as someone that's sick.
Yeah.
So if you see someone with
Right.
tablets, you automatically think, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? That's why they don't want to take it. Forgetting the intention. You're not taking it forever. You're just taking it to get
And the
better.
longer
That
you
specific
delay it,
time.
the longer you delay it, it's your brain as well. I think
Exactly.
people forget that the brain is really sensitive, and so the longer you leave it, the worse it will be.
Yeah.
Because you then will have to be on it for, like, your period of having to be on it will then have to be extended, because I know that's the situation that I'm familiar with, that because of a reluctance to follow the procedure and like come off it, then
Yes,
relapse, then
yes.
it really affects your healing journey. And as you said, it's a journey. Like it's, once you, and then you'll blink and you'll be surprised at how like your dosage has gone down, the
Yes,
method has
exactly.
changed, that everything has
Exactly.
changed. But at the beginning, it feels so intense, and it feels like it's all consuming.
This is going to be like this
Yeah.
But it
forever.
won't be like that forever.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a new fair that's been unlocked for me though. There is a new fair, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
The new
let's hear
fair
it.
is, I've been on it for so long now
Yeah.
that like when I think into the future about coming off it, not saying it's not possible, but then you start thinking, how would that be?
Yeah.
How
Because
my
like
body
I might
reacts.
miss it for like 3 days. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But in my head, I'm thinking like,
I'm not on it, so what's next? Like,
yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like, it's all good. So it's like a placebo. Is that what they call it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Where
yeah.
like you start telling yourself,
It's your mind.
you're-
And
It's-
the mind is powerful.
it's extremely
It is.
powerful.
I think on that, this is just a message of hope anyway, that like God does restore,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
like
100%.
it's not forever, like you said,
Yeah.
and the day will come when you won't need to take it anymore,
Yeah.
and you will be completely fine.
Yeah.
I think as well, like realizing that a lot of this stuff just starts with accepting the truth of where we've been
Yeah.
at, and that God is walking hand in hand with you. Because I think, like you said,
100%.
at the beginning, it was the pressure that led to the first breakdown, and that's what a lot of people don't understand triggers a lot of mental health issues. When you don't have a channel, when you don't have a place to channel your stress, channel what you're going through into, everybody has the propensity to deal with a mental health issue. I think
Yeah.
people think that it only happens to certain people. It can happen to anybody.
Anyone, yeah.
Stress is a thing that rises up in the body and it can overflow. And when it
Yeah.
overflows, it can manifest as a mental health issue.
Right.
But I think what people need to work on as individuals, like even if you have mental health, if you don't, is knowing how to manage stress
Right.
in a way that you're not
Yes.
suppressing anything.
That is key.
'Cause if you're not
my
dealing with
trigger,
stuff,
most of my
yeah.
triggers were stress related.
Exactly, and that's stress is the thing that triggers
That
mental
triggers
health issues.
it,
And the
a
thing
lot
is,
of the time.
if you don't deal with a lot of your stress will deal with you.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
that's just how it works.
Yeah.
Your body was meant to heal itself. That's how God made us.
Yeah.
But when you're putting so much pressure on yourself in a way that
Your body can't contain.
it
Yeah.
anymore, that's also, it will just go
Spiral,
it will
come out, yeah.
Yeah.
And we see it in the older generation, like our parents, they're getting older, you know?
Yeah.
So naturally, like when they're stressed, like it shows in their body, like people, naturally you get sick.
Yeah.
So that's why what you said, I agree 100%.
And a lot of mothers, like, I don't know if you guys saw this when you were growing up, but I feel like a lot of mothers, especially African women, struggled with their mental health, but because it wasn't
100%.
spoken about,
100%.
Yeah.
a lot of women
Yeah.
had
100%.
depression, a lot of women had
100%.
schizophrenia. Like,
100%.
I think people think it sounds so like far-fetched. when
Yeah,
you're so
but it was
surprised.
right
It
there.
was right in front of a
And
lot
I'm
of
so
people.
glad you mentioned being African, because again, I can't speak from any other experience, but when you were younger, you probably didn't know what was going on, and now that we're older, we're more educated on these things. We think back to that auntie and you thought she just needed help. By the way,
Yes.
there was
When you
nothing
see
wrong. She
you
just
can
needed.
pinpoint certain symptoms,
Yeah.
and
And you
you're
can-
like, oh my gosh, this
right.
is someone that was. It was a cry for help.
Yeah.
Right, and you can see the reaction that she got. Rather than getting the help that she needed, she was
Just ostracized.
isolated.
Yes.
People were labeling her, and
Yes.
you know, things like that. And I think it's a good thing because we can see how far we've come as a community, but there's still a lot of work
to do.
So
there's a page on Instagram called the Real Depression page. I don't know if you know that page. It's, I think they got like 1 million followers. It's a proper big page.
Wow.
But because the reason why the page is so big is because like it goes through step by step of like what to expect of certain things. And I remember reading one of them and I was like, oh, that's my family. Yeah. Like my mom's behaved that way, or like my auntie, and they don't know. They're just carrying this if they're walking around and they have no idea.
Like, some people can sometimes function very at a high level where it doesn't impact them in the way that it impacts other people.
Their
but
day
that
to
doesn't
day.
mean that they're not struggling with something.
100%.
No, they carried it extremely well, but it still bled out in certain instances.
Like they were just taught to just push through.
100%.
Like there's no other choice.
100%. And this is why, again, everything that we've spoken about is so important that we keep going and keep carrying on. Because again, I've had a mini experience with my mum as well, and just certain things that I noticed. And if I hadn't maybe seen around me how to notice on time little things, and just maybe her seeing on social media, it could have only God knows where it would have went. But because we were able to get that understanding and we have that content, is so free to us now, and it makes me again back to our conversation of back in the days that wasn't provided to us.
Wasn't provided.
This is why a lot of things escalated, you know, and
even pages like the one you mentioned, like I'm sure it's helpful for you now reading that, because you can
100%.
pinpoint, okay, this wasn't actually normal. It was just this person needed support and help. Whereas back then, I can only imagine how lonely it must have felt. Because everyone was just thinking, oh, like this isn't normal. Like let me just try to pray it away. And just like we've seen that. Like growing up in church as well, there was always that one person that to everybody else they looked crazy or like they needed the hands being laid on, when really and truly they actually just needed someone to sit with them and have a conversation with them and actually ask them, how are you, how are you feeling, what are you going through, instead of it just being a let me lay hands on them and then they come back every Sunday and it's the same thing and then you're wondering why it's nothing's changing.
Happening because what does it say in James 2, faith without works?
And it reminds me of the verse as well about, like, you know, Jesus said, oh, when you clothe that person on the street, you clothed me. You fed them. I think sometimes people think the spiritual work is the speaking in tongues and the healing of people. It's like, no, the spiritual work is loving people.
Kindness.
Like, the spiritual work is doing the things that, like, we are channels for God to move on this planet.
Yes.
So many people have said, oh, I'll pray for you, oh, I'll do this, but they don't actually do the groundwork of being there. And that Jesus was there.
Giving someone
that's where it starts. 100%.
And he mourned.
He was there. And I think people, they don't really understand the magnitude of presence. Like, presence changes everything.
100%.
You, like, being around a person that, like, you don't know how much, like, your community can just transform everything.
And I was going to say, just to add to that, Ayo, you've always spoken about just community and how important it is. And, you know, us living in the West, we are almost going to get away from that. And everyone has this individualistic mentality, like, oh, I don't need anyone. Community is so important, you know, and it's so important to have people around you that can help you with certain things and just do things together.
And I think that's what helped heal me the most, was because I've got a whole community of people that's been sectioned, and they didn't exist. Not they didn't exist, but in my world they didn't exist. And so like now we can speak. If I got a question, if I want to ask, like, what was this part of your section experience like, or when you first came into the hospital, I've even started something called a section of your life. I don't know if you know about that, but there's I'll show you like the Instagram page. It's very fresh. But so a section of, so my book's called a section of my life. So I started something called a section of your life. I speak to them about their life experiences while they were section, and like. I think that's where the handwriting starts writing, because I think that's one of the most important things I've ever done. Because like anyone that gets sectioned for generations to come can go on YouTube and find that now and see,
and they have that,
and see other people talk. So they might not be talking about their situation, but just seeing other people talking about their situation will make them feel like they're not alone. And I've got 38 people waiting. After the first episode I posted, all these people that's been sectioned started getting in touch. And do you know what's so beautiful about it? Is that you have to be well to go on it. Because you can't come on there like...
of course.
So that means if someone's in hospital thinking I want to go on section of your life, they're thinking I have to get well first.
Wow, that's a motivation to do that.
Exactly.
I like that.
You've really destigmatized it. Like, just hearing you speak about it has been so beautiful for me, because the way you've articulated everything just shows that these things shouldn't be stigmatized in society.
At all.
Like, these are people that just need help.
That's it. it.
And at the end of the day, these are just people. Because
Right,
I think
that's
sometimes
it.
people look at people that struggle with their mental health in a way that is like they're an alien.
And that's what I learned when I was in hospital. I was in that person you're running from on the streets that like is following you around or talking to themselves. We had breakfast together. Like,
Wow.
They're just normal people.
and like you realize like they've all got stories. You see, the first 3 times I got section, I wasn't talking to no one.
Yeah.
They used to call me the guy that just stays in his room. But I did that deliberately because when you're in that environment, I can't begin to explain to you what that environment's like. It's so scary, physically and spiritually. So I used to keep myself to myself because I was like, if I mingle too much here, I might get lost. Do you know what I mean? And not be able to find myself again. So I was like, when you lot are ready, just knock on my door when it's breakfast, when it's lunch, or if
you were
there's any
intentional about
activity.
that.
I was so intentional. But then the last time, I don't know, man. I kind of just lost the fear, and I was just like, let me just start talking. And I started talking to patients, and like you start hearing stories,
and that's healing in itself.
and you start seeing like, oh, that auntie you're seeing, or like something happened.
These are just people.
To
I'm still scared when I see them, as we all are, as a natural human instinct, but I don't judge them.
Right.
I've got the fear, but I'm looking at them
You
thinking,
don't hold them in that light.
yeah, in that light. I know like something happened in your journey that I don't know about. That if I knew, it would click this whole thing together.
It humanizes them.
Yeah, and we don't look at it like that. We just
don't
look at them
it.
straight away and just, and I've got that in hospital. When I was with these patients and I was talking to, like, I say the story every interview I do because it stuck with me when he said it. There was one guy that, how he got there is because his wife wouldn't let him see his child.
It's stuff like that.
And that his child is all he's got.
Yeah.
That's my pride and joy. And she took the child from him and that tipped him over the edge. And there's so many people, that's him. That is so close.
Like started somewhere.
Not seeing,
They're done.
then they're done. So it's like,
I've got a question as well. I think I would like you to say to like help us to wrap up the episode. Like, if you've got a message to like a young black boy, because I feel like within other communities, mental health is spoken about in their own different ways. I think we need more people to hear from you and to see a person a person they can refer to, reference, like a message to a young black boy that might be suffering with any form of mental health issue. And what would you say?
First of all, I'll say get comfortable with vulnerability. Because vulnerability is frowned upon in society, especially with men. Especially amongst men. And I understand why, because like there's
Pressure.
men throughout the years that's been vulnerable with their partner and she's, thrown it in his face. I'm still trying to get around the partner in that one. That's why I never, encourage that one, because that one's a bit risky. I encourage men to be vulnerable around their boys, because we still can't even do it around our boys. That's where the problem is. If we can get to that vulnerability level around our boys, then like things will change. And there's a quote that I always say is shame dies when the story is told in a safe space. Which is true. The only reason why the shame continues is if you say it in a space that's not safe, then you leave there feeling like, why did I say that?
That's
It's
it.
shame. But when you say it in a safe space, it's
received,
healed and it's
That's
received
it.
well.
That's it.
So like you need to pick out your friends wisely and realize that which is the one that's always the deep one. You know, the one that everyone's like, bro.
When you're about to go into it, like you're doing the pieces.
That's the one that you be vulnerable with, and then you have the one that you took to clothes with. You have the one you talk about girls with. But if you make the mistake and talk about your vulnerabilities to the clothes one, he's gonna be like, brother.
It's not that deep.
It's not that deep, and that's where it goes wrong. So like I've learned along the way to like analyze my friends and be like, you see him, this one that's always talking about Egypt. I want to go Egypt and see the pyramids.
That's
He's
the one.
that was like, bro, I feel you. Because like, I'm going through this, and you go into, so you got to know like who to talk to. It's so important. So that's what I would say to a young black boy. And I also say self-love as well, which I'm still working on. It sounds cringy.
It's a journey.
We always hear self-love in a cringy way.
It's important, though.
But it is the key.
Right.
Because when they asked Jesus what was the most important commandment to keep, what did he say? Tell me. Which one? Out of all of them, which one did he say?
Love others as you love yourself.
Why? Why he highlighted that commandment. I can do an hour sermon on that alone. Because once you get that right, the whole game is complete. The whole game's complete. And it's the hardest one to get right. I've been working on it for the past 10 years and I'm still working on it. It's so
It's a
hard. But
journey.
if you
It's a
can really
journey.
love yourself genuinely,
It
your life on
radiates.
this planet becomes a
And
paradise.
it makes it
That's it.
easier to love other people.
That's
as
it. It
well.
radiates.
That's what it solves. It solves
But
everything.
I think people forget the first part, which is to love God. Without loving Him, you can't truly love yourself.
Yeah.
Because
It's
when
true.
you love yourself in the way the world tells you to love yourself, you become hyper individualistic. You become hyper independent. You become all these things
It's
that
selfish.
actually isolate you from your society. But when you know that you have an authority above you that is God that you're loving first, He then inputs His love
On
in
you,
Right.
yeah.
That then
For the
enables you to
radiance.
love
And then
others
you
and love
see yourself the way
100%.
He sees you.
And that's it.
That's what I'm saying. If we can get that right, like my first song that I got signed for was called Self Love.
See?
I don't know if you've heard it or if there's a video on YouTube. It's called Self Love, and it just grew legs off its own. That's what I performed at the TED Talk. Where I was like, let's stand up and change this to a TED party. Then I performed the Self Love song. Snoop Dogg posted on his Instagram.
Oh, amazing.
The song just came together.
Yeah.
And that was because I was reading a book from a woman called Louise Hay.
On
I doubt you lot
self-love.
would have heard of her before. She's passed on. Like she was doing this then, but in that world for self-help and stuff. She was like a pioneer. That's how I found. Remember I said I was looking for pioneers.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I
That's how
wanted
you
to
came
know.
across
Yeah,
her.
and how I came. But that's part of it. But someone had her book on her. WhatsApp stories was new. I
Yeah.
remember I didn't like watching people's WhatsApp stories. They just copied Instagram. I was like, I'm not watching.
We all went
this.
through that.
We went through that. Now we're loving it.
And then I watched one or two, and luckily I did because she had it on her WhatsApp story.
Right.
And I was like, is that a good book? I was just thirsty for knowledge at that time. I wanted anything. And then I bought it, and I'm not an avid reader. I'm a visual person, so I was like, let me type her name into YouTube and see if she's got some videos, and that was perfect for me. And I can just watch her and see her mannerisms, and I just learned everything from her. And she changed the whole definition of self-love for me. And then I made the song. I was like, how can I share this information with the world? And that's where my talent comes in. I was like, I can make a song, and I made the self-love song, and that's my biggest song. So I'm still trying to top the song till today.
That's beautiful.
Wow.
Amazing. Honestly, what a discussion.
Honestly,
thank
That
you.
went
So
Thank
quick.
you
How long
so
have you been
much. It's been over an hour now.
Wow.
I think this might be the longest episode we've done
It
this
was like
season.
5 minutes.
But
I've got so much more to talk
I
about.
know.
You want to do a part two?
needed.
No,
Yeah.
definitely. Thank you so much, Shocka, for
Thank you
coming
for coming on.
Honestly, we
and
appreciate
sharing
you.
your story. I
Literally.
feel like God will continue to give you the strength to share it with others.
Amen.
Because it needs to be shared.
Definitely. So where can the people find you?
My Instagram mainly. Forget about the other stuff. Instagram has got everything on there.
We'll
That's my
tag it in the
office.
description.
That's
we'll
probably
put
where
it
you
down
DM'd me
there,
and found me. Yeah, Instagram, I'm active on there. Because that's where everything happened for me.
Yeah.
So I feel like you got to pick which platforms work for you.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
some platforms, is how they force you to go on TikTok. It might not
Sorry,
be for
I'm
you.
there. I'm there with you. Yeah.
Yeah, it might not be for you.
Multiple platforms and you're just spreading yourself
I think you
thin.
should have them.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
have that one you focus on. That,
Yeah,
this is
that
the
will
one
push the narrative
Yeah.
more
is
for
good
you.
me.
Yeah,
So, Instagram
yeah.
was the one that worked for me. So that's where I'm
Definitely.
at. So Shocka_artist on Instagram. And you just follow the journey. And
Lovely.
Thank you.
Well,
so
thank
much.
you so
Thank you
much
for coming
guys.
on.
Thank
It was a
you.
pleasure.
Is this it for our season?
that the end
This
of
is
the
the end of
season?
this
This is the season,
season, guys. It's been a journey, and we are so grateful. We're so thankful for just the journey and how far we've come. We just pray like the next season will be amazing, and we just thank you guys for watching us and our
Your
journey.
support.
Like literally, this is what season 8.
Wow.
Like we've been doing this
And
since
how many episodes in the season?
Like
This is
about-
now 160 something episodes. Like
Yeah.
in total
Well,
in
this
seasons like
is gonna be
20.
27 or 20. Yeah,
That's
27 episodes.
great.
We've been doing this since we were 23 or
And we're like 28
I don't
now.
know.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, we thank God
My
for
word
the
for
growth.
this year is consistency.
We've
Consistency is
Yeah.
has been my Achilles heel.
Yeah,
It's hard.
yeah.
Yeah,
and
it's hard.
there's reward at the end of it.
That's why, yeah.
There's reward at the end of it, and we've been
100%.
seeing that. And so, we just want to say thank you guys just for everything,
Honestly, yes.
and we will see you on our next season. Bye.
Have a wonderful summer.
Bye.
Oh wow.